Good morning! So, another day, another walk to the gym, and another rant of mine. And today we're going to talk about designers, or more specifically, the cooperation between developers and designers. Now, for those of you who have been working in front end or anything that requires a little bit of design, sooner or later you're going to find that you are going to have to cooperate. Well, have to, but you're going to get to cooperate with designers. Now, depending on level of experience, like what exactly you're building and so forth, your cooperation may or may not vary. And I thought I was going to share a bit about my experiences working with designers of different level of experience and different ways of how we have been cooperating throughout my career. Now, at my absolute first job, I had basically a personal designer working with me on the project that I was in charge of virtually. And he was fairly young. He was roughly, roughly something like, I don't know, 25, 24, something like that. And we kind of started off our relationship by him basically kind of, how do I put this? He had a lot of, and this is for those of you who've been doing whatever you've been doing for a while, you can probably relate to this. There's, especially with the more junior profiles in any profession, you'll sense that they're not that comfortable in their role just yet. They don't have that, they don't project that confidence. And he had this too. And he started off by basically telling me, I don't know why this actually happened, but one of the first conversations we had was that he was saying that, he was trying to explain to me the value of a good designer. And he said, well, Frederick, we designers, we think up, it's very difficult to be a designer. It's we who envision how things are going to be and how things are going to be made. And we come up, we have nothing, and then we think up all these things that you the engineers, have to build. And it's, even though what you do is pretty, it's probably difficult, you still have something that we have created, so you already know what you're going to build. And that can never be as difficult as starting from nothing and building it. And the message, at least what I interpreted, what he was relaying was that, all right, so the thing you're doing is more difficult than the thing I'm doing. And there are a lot of people who do this. Designers, at least here in programming, designers and also testers. Designers and testers in general have this thing. I don't know why. Well, I do know why, but that's another talk, a completely different topic. So I said to him, okay, well, that is true. You do create like the designs and the artboards and all that stuff, but think of it this way. If you come to me with a drawing of a box, and whatever you put in that box turns to gold, would you say that your drawing is more complicated than the science, or rather the thing that I have to do in order to make the box do the thing that it's doing? How about a car? If you show me a beautiful picture of a car and you ask me to build it, what do you think represents the most amount of work? And he kind of went, well, yeah. And then I kept on saying, like, well, and think about it this way. As a designer, you're usually the first line. Your job is to create something that gives us a vision. Absolutely, this is true. It is your primary function to build something that looks beautiful and acts elegantly so that the product looks nice and behaves the way, so it has the type of experience that you're looking for, right? But that work is happening up front, and it's for the most part it's happening up front because it is so expensive to for me, basically, or rather for the programmers, to do the same type of thing in code. The reason why, like this, as a designer, it's very often you who have to compromise with your work to fit the technical limitations of what we are doing, like that the programmers are doing. So if you think about it from that perspective, your main function when it comes to providing this direction that you're claiming that you're providing is to save the cost, save cost virtually, to save time when it comes to development. Because if something goes wrong with if there's an oversight in design or something like that creates an issue in the code, that usually ends up being very expensive for the company. And little by little he kind of came around to this idea that, maybe he was like, I'm not saying that I was trying to belittle his profession, because I have a great deal of respect for design, and I do it myself as an amateur, of course, but I try to learn as much as I can. And finally I ended by telling him that, the thing is that I don't know why you feel this need to justify your profession to me. Like, I'm a programmer and I just do it because I like it. I don't really care so much if, it holds some type of value, obviously, because otherwise I wouldn't be paid for it. And the same thing goes for you. You're being paid for this. So obviously it holds a lot of value to somebody. Why do you have to compare it to me? If I compare my profession to that of a computer scientist, or any scientist for that matter, like in terms of, the intellect, if you will, or the skill required to do that thing, of course I'm going to lose. Like, programming is difficult, but it's not the most difficult profession in the world. I can always find somebody or something, or like something somebody else is doing that is much more, cooler or more value providing than what I'm doing. But it all depends on the way that you look at things. So think of it this way. Yes, maybe I'm doing 90% of the work that is required to provide a product, to create value for the company. But those 10% that you provide by, providing us with artboards and graphics and so forth, it's those 10% that makes the difference between just an application and a great application. Those 10% is what the majority of users and investors and so forth are going to get excited about. Nobody's going to get fucking excited about my Java code or the stuff that I can show them the source code. It's not going to excite a lot of people, but what you do will definitely excite people. So maybe you should start thinking of this as more of a collaboration between people who are experts in different fields. Because trust me, if I sat down today and tried to design what you design, it will look like absolute crap. I don't know how you do the things you do, but you do them very well. That's why you're paid to do them. I can't do that. And the mistake, and I said, I think that the reason why you feel this urge to justify your own profession to me like this is because you are unfortunately working as in one of those professions where people make a very fatal mistake when they look at what you do. And that mistake is the same for photographers and so forth. And the mistake that people do is that they mistake that something is very easy to appreciate for it being easy to create. Now just hear me out here. What I mean is that it's very easy to appreciate a nice photo or photography, but a lot of people don't understand how much skill and money goes into taking said photograph or to provide that thing that it's so easy to appreciate. And it's only really when they try themselves, which they usually don't do. Go figure, right? They simply judge and criticize and, have opinions about stuff, but they don't actually try to create it themselves. And that's actually what I think is the fundamental flaw, or rather the fundamental problem for the designer that I was talking to. Like, he's been probably talking to a lot of people, or rather he's been living in a situation where people, like, he can go to school and he can educate himself and be amazing at what he does, and when he creates these beautiful, amazing user interfaces, it's very easy for people to appreciate how well designed something that those are, but they don't respect him. They don't truly respect the skill that is required to make those artboards, because it's easy to appreciate, and therefore you make the false assumption that it's easy to create. And trust me, if you want to like challenge me on this, please do. And I challenge you, if you are one of those people who think that, you know, design is easy, please go and get Sketch or Photoshop or something like that and try to build your own user interface. And then you hold up that to, and you can go and look at like design inspirations and concepts and stuff, and you hold up the work that you just made next to that of true professionals. And trust me, you get really humble really quickly.